So I come to tell you He's alive, to tell you that He dries every tear that falls.
Hello, this is Clint Louie, and I thank you for tuning in today for 5 Minutes from Friendship. I read of a pilot recently. This pilot was flying a little small aircraft, and he was flying out over the ocean waters headed toward land. And as he's flying along, and it's daylight outside and flying, he said up ahead he could see storm clouds. A storm was headed his direction. He would meet that storm. So he began to think to himself, well, how can I deal with this? So he looked down below. Maybe I can fly underneath the storm. But as he looked down at the waters, he saw that they were already troubled. They were boiling. The waters, it was too difficult to try to fly underneath the storm. So then he thought, well, the only option I've got is to try to get above the storm. So he said, I pointed my little aircraft and turned the nose upward and began to climb. And I climbed and climbed. I hit 1,000 feet, 1,500 feet, 2,000 feet, 2,500 feet. And all of a sudden, as I climbed, the storm met me. He said this storm was unlike anything I'd ever seen. It was a hurricane, it was a typhoon, and a cyclone all at once. He said the rain pounded against my little plane. The hail struck my plane like little bullets bouncing off the aircraft. He said the darkness was so thick I couldn't see a thing. Where it was once daylight, now it's just as thick as night. I could not see anything. I was terrified, scared, as this storm had just enveloped my aircraft. He said, but all I could do is just keep climbing. So I began to climb higher and higher and further. 3,500 feet, 4,000 feet, 4,500 feet, 5,000 feet. The rain's beating and pounding. 5,000 feet. And then finally he said, I broke through the clouds. And as I broke through the clouds, it was just calm, beautiful, clear blue, like sapphires. The storm clouds beneath me, but up where I was perfect peace, rest. He said all I could do was bow my head, quote scripture, and worship and praise the true and living God for what He has made and what He has done and for how He had kept me safe and blessed me. May I tell you today, there are storms, and it's not a matter of if storms approach your life, it's only a matter of when storms enter your life. As a matter of fact, Psalm 77 in verse number 19, the Bible in this passage speaks of trouble and storms and says, Thy way is in the sea. God's way is in the sea. And thy path in the great waters, and thy footsteps are not known. And no doubt the psalmist is thinking of the Red Sea. He is thinking of how God led His people to the Red Sea, a place they did not choose for themselves, but outward circumstances had come upon them like a storm, and yet God led them through it. Outward trouble. You ever have outward things that trouble your life? Absolutely you do. I do too. Then there's inward trouble. As a matter of fact, in the same psalm, he speaks in verse 4, Thou holdest mine eyes waking. I'm so troubled that I cannot speak. I'm so troubled I can't sleep and I can't even speak. Inward struggle, inward battles, depression, guilt, whatever it may be. Inward turmoil, outward turmoil, storms that approach. What do we do? Well, I tell you, God will let storms in our lives so that by faith, in faith, we climb like an airplane, and we climb, and our faith reaches up and goes to God in prayer and worship and praise, and your faith takes hold of God's throne and God's good hand, and God leads you and breaks through the clouds. And yeah, the clouds are still there. The storm is still brewing. Yes, the trouble is still everywhere, but you know where you are? You're not living down below those storm clouds. You're up above the storm clouds. And I want to say to you, our God is powerful. Our God has a purpose, and our God's presence is wonderful. And by faith today, reach up and let God bring you above the clouds. Be at peace in the Lord. This is Clint Louie. God bless you. Have a great day.